dans la fonction publique, l'aide pour le soin à l'étranger qui passe à 1 million de roupies, la construction de logements sociaux est sans précédent et les 12 000 maisons promises seront bel et bien livrées, complétées avant la fin de ce mandat. La liste est longue, Monsieur le Vice-président. Ce gouvernement a démontré par nos actions que notre manifeste n'était pas rempli de phrases creuses, mais des intentions fermes que nous avons réalisées. Et ce budget vient encore une fois prouver notre sérieux. Il a été non seulement plébiscité par le peuple, mais aussi accueilli favorablement par la communauté des affaires dans son ensemble. Monsieur le Président, avec votre permission, laissez-moi citer quelques exemples. Business Mauritius. Le budget répond à l'ensemble aux priorités identifiées. La Chambre de commerce et d'industrie de Maurice, nous accueillons favorablement les mesures de ciblage pour les plus vulnérables. La MEXA, c'est un bilan positif, aligné à nos attentes et nos stratégies. Ernst & Young, un budget bon père de famille. La RIM, nous accueillons positivement l'annonce d'un plan d'action pour consolider l'avenir du tourisme. L'OTAM, il est intéressant de noter la mise sur pied d'un Digital Industries Academy pour la formation des jeunes. Deloitte, ce budget, tout en visant la transformation de l'économie, tente également de répondre à la préoccupation immédiate de la population. Voilà, Monsieur le Président, la communauté des affaires. Toutes ces opinions sont des opinions indépendantes et pas les nôtres, donc pas partisanes, Monsieur le Vice-président. Mr. the Deputy Speaker, sir, recognizing the challenges facing our country, this government has worked out a budget which propounds the remedial measures to effectively deal with them in the short and medium term, including immediate relief to the population. These measures include 3 billion rupees for food security, grants for planters, fishers, breeders, 15 billion for social measures, 5 billion rupees to support SMEs, 1 billion rupees to be invested in water distribution projects. We are also investing in the modernization of our health system. Recruitment of more than 8,000 public officers, 3.8 billion to continue to pursue the National Flood Management Program. There is a flash flood of measures, Mr. Speaker, sir, qui a noyé l'opposition, comme disait très bien mon ami, l'honorable Ganou. This government has at heart the aspiration of its citizens and has left no stone unturned to meet their demands and beyond expectation. One of them being the increase in pension benefits. We recognize and value the immense contribution of our seniors. And history will recall there is only one Prime Minister who has taken bold measures to enhance their welfare. That is Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath. And today we have an opposition who is saying that the rise is not enough, the rise is not sufficient. But let me remind them, justement, when they were in power, what did they say? N'a pas assez na casse pour mon pension. This is what they said. Tears roll down our elderly when they remember the 3,620 rupees that they were getting back in 2014. Stop making a show. We have just seen one episode a little bit earlier. People of this country understand your gimmick. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, a little bit earlier, we heard Honorable Shakil Mohammed saying one thing, that every one of us here on this side of the house, we only thank our Prime Minister. Only take his name, as if we don't think it is only the Prime Minister who think, and we just listen. He said this a bit earlier. But Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, he tends to forget. We go and look at Hansard, the budget debates of 2013-2014. Honorable Mohammed was Minister of Labour. And I have it here, Mr. Speaker, sir. You know how many times in his speech he mentioned Dr. the Honorable Navin Ramgoolam? How many times in his speech he mentioned the Honorable Prime Minister? I tell you, 29 times he said Honorable Prime Minister. 6 times he mentioned Honorable Dr. Navin Chandra Ramgoolam, under the leadership of Dr. the Honorable Ramgoolam. I commend our Honorable Prime Minister. I thank our Honorable Prime Minister. Again, in the next paragraph, again, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, and that's only one budget debate, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, 2013-2014. Because next year in 2014, l'espéro ticket, lui aussi. This he don't come and say. But when we on this side of the house, we are commending a serious Prime Minister. We are saying that he's a hard worker. We don't say it just for the sake of saying it, because we mean it. That is why we say it. And for reference, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, debate number 31, 22nd November 2013, for his record, because he works only half an hour a day and then he leaves. And he's saying the contrary for us. Mais il doit se regarder dans le miroir, Monsieur le Vice-Président. Following the budget debate presentation, as usual, I met many inhabitants of my constituency. But one person I met in particular, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I met Tonton Ramen, who is 102 years old and lives in Pointe-de-Flac. I'm sure my colleague, Honorable Modou, will agree with me. And you know what he told me? 102 years old. He told me that he thanked God that the MSM is in power and that Honorable Pravin Jagannath is our Prime Minister in such a difficult times. And he says so because at the time of this pandemic, he said many of us would have died of hunger. And this is a typical example of the feelings of many senior Mauritians listening to us. We did it in 2015, and we are continuing to do so. This is called a caring government. This is called a responsible Prime Minister, responsible Minister of Finance. A government that has concern of its citizens to its heart. Un vrai gouvernement l'épée. Same for the disability allowance, where 10,000 vulnerable people will benefit from this measure. Members of the other side of the house saw these people suffering and did nothing. You saw their tears, but you ignore them. thanks to this government, these people will finally smile. Fortunately, this weakened opposition Chitaslo Poto in 2014 and 2019. Else, the population Chiputaslo Poto Akozotoji. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the abolition of the municipal tax is a historic and unprecedented measure which will directly impact hundreds of thousands of citizens. The opposition response on hearing the abolition of the municipal tax was truly unpatriotic. They dared to cast this measure as an electoral one. Let us take a trip across back in history in 2006. Down the memory lane, as my very learned friend, Honorable Ganu, is saying. In 2006, the last attempt, a government tried to abolish municipal tax. Instead of abolishing the tax, what did they do at that time? They have imposed a new tax across the island by combining the municipal tax and the rural tax into the national residential property tax. Oh, does everybody knows it? Navin Ramgulam property tax, NRPT. This coup de massue would have forced everyone to pay a tax on every square meter of roof owned. From this past 2005 and 2010 government, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it's good to know that there are only 3 honorable members who are present in the opposition today. Honorable Juval, Honorable Bulel, and Honorable Mohammed. During the budget debates of 2006-2007, they could not even utter a word to defend the NRPT because they did not have the moral stand to support such an unwarranted measure. The then Prime Minister and the then Minister of Finance, the duo Navin Rama, were so obsessed to hammer the inhabitants of the rural areas that they came back again in the budget 2007 and 2008 with a lighter version of an NRPT, or let me now frame it as Navin Rama property tax. Again, in the budget debates 2007-2008, not a single word these 3 members uttered in their speech, out of shame, because they knew that they could not face the constituents when they go out of the parliament. Because Honorable Mohammed was MP of constituency number 13, Rivière des Anguilles, Souillac. Honorable Boulel was an elected member of constituency number 11, Grand Port Rosebel. They could not go to meet those people in the rural areas. This is probably why they had to run away from these constituencies, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. On the contrary, this government had the courage to put at par citizens of urban and rural areas by abolishing the municipal tax and improving services to all citizens all across. Even their supporters of rural areas and urban areas are congratulating this government for such a bold measure. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I came across very interesting statements from Honorable Bulel, who is not here, unfortunately, today. In his 2007 budgetary debates, and let me quote Hansard, page 708. And he says, it is not a question who had the best economic guru. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, But we know that we can rely upon our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Economic Development. We may call this policy citaneconomics. This is what he said. We may call this policy citanenomics, unquote. I'm quoting word to word from Hansard, page 708. Citanenomics was then presented as an elixir at that time, but turned out to be an utter failure, not only for the then government, but also rejected 3 times in his own constituency. People know how to distinguish between spin doctors and genuine economic gurus. I will not play with words here, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, but I want to say one thing, that this government knows only one type of economics, the economics of our people of this country. We understand the pain of our people. We hear the voices, and we produce a budget to address their concerns. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I listened to the press conference of the leader of the Labour Party on the budget. And what did he say? I have it here. He said, Navin Ramgoulam, le budget 2022-2023 est un mirage. In fact, the only mirage is his dream to become Prime Minister again in this country. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to come on the philosophy of our ministry. The ICT sector has been a very resilient economic sector, as demonstrated by its robust growth, even over the pandemic period. It has been growing at a rate around 5 and 6.5%, and has been constantly offering job opportunities to our youth. Today, the sector employs more than 30,000 people. Huge efforts have been made by the government through my ministry, and we will continue to support this sector and consolidate the local ICT ecosystem. Earlier this afternoon, Honorable Utim stated that nothing is being done to boost the ITC sector, and no mention is made how to increase connectivity speed and lower charges. Allow me to inform the House that with regard to prices of broadband internet, Mauritius is among those countries where the price is well below the world average. Further, with the coming into operation of the Métis cable and yet another submarine cable in 2023, the price of broadband internet will definitely become more competitive. Concerning internet speed, the honorable member seemed not to be aware that the country is fully fibered since 2017 and is presently already availing itself of the 5G technology. This will no doubt boost further the sector. Technology is moving fast, and so we are, towards a smarter Mauritius. This digital transformation implies the redesign of the tools and methods used in the machinery of government and public sector at large. And my ministry, Mr. Speaker, sir, is up to this challenge. To satisfy the manpower needs of the sector, the tertiary sector will work in close collaboration with the industry in designing relevant IT courses and the delivery thereof in sufficient quantity. Given the resilience and the growth of the sector, and fortunately so, the need for yet more qualified talent is continuously felt. Some IT firms do resort to provide specific specialized courses to their personnel, as in any country, and the government will supplement these types of training through the provision of courses by the Digital Industries Academy, which is expected to train more than 1,000 professionals in the forthcoming year and starting next month. In this era of accelerated digitalization, it has become more than imperative to reimagine the institutional setup of my ministry, which dates back to the early 90s. As announced last year, the Central Informatics Bureau, the IT Security Unit, the Central Information System Division, and the Government Online Center will be restructured under a new unit that will meet the demand for a more effective and efficient public delivery. In this context, a team of consultants from the E-Governance Academy of Estonia has recently completed an assessment of the existing institutional setup of my ministry and has made recommendation for the setting up of a Mauritius Digital Transformation Office, which will be the lead organization in the implementation of government digital project. I can assure the House that this initiative is well on track. Furthermore, as announced in the Budget 2020, restructuring of the National Computer Board is underway in line with recommendation made by consultants. The objective is to make NCB become the lead organization responsible for transformation of Mauritius into a world-class digital economy by fostering required skills and making technology widely accessible to all. The legal framework of NCB will have to be completely reviewed given the new orientation of the organization, and eventually a new legislation will be presented in Parliament. In the same line, since the proclamation of the Mauritius Research and Innovation Council Act 2019, the focus of MRIC has shifted away from academic research towards applied research and innovation relevant to our realities. The business model of the Mauritius Post is also being reviewed by a consultant, and recommendations from the latter are expected by end of this month itself for a new cohesive strategy geared towards making the company more profitable whilst enhancing public service delivery. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, my ministry has now set up the Mauritius Emerging Technologies Council after coming in force of the Mauritius Emerging Technologies Council Act 2021 in August last year. This institution has as main responsibility to scrutinize our business environment and propose recommendations to push new and emerging tech in our industry. The METC plans to organize an international workshop on artificial intelligence in the next quarter to encourage the adoption of emerging tech in the country. Furthermore, following the adoption of the Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Act 2021, the Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT, is now operational under my ministry. This crucial department serves as the national agency for coordinating cybersecurity responses activities and promoting cybersecurity at the national level. With all these efforts, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, Mauritius is ranked first in Africa and 17th in the world on the Global Cybersecurity Index 2020 of the International Telecommunication Union. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in line with the digitalization of government services to better satisfy the needs of all citizens and businesses, my ministry is currently completing numerous projects. A new government intranet system, GINS, is now be able to serve more than 500 sites of government, having high-speed connectivity to the Government Online Center. I am pleased to inform that these sites will include deployment of high-speed connectivity in 160 secondary schools across Mauritius and Rodrigues. Mr. Speaker, sir, who would have imagined that today any citizen could be able to download their birth certificate online? We made it happen. Through the digital safe, not safe, cough. We all, when we talk about safe, everybody think of cough. It's a digital safe. Every citizen will have access to electronic documents, birth certificates, marriage certificate, digital pass, certificate of electric supply, etc., etc. The certificate of character, moralité, and digital driving license will be soon available through the Mocloud platform. To capture the vaccination data, the ministry developed in-house COVAX system. Today, 97% of the population, more than 900,000 people, can download their digital pass online on BeSafe Maurice and Mocloud platform. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, due to time constraint, I'll try to go fast. In line with the strategy to transform public service, my ministry is in process to implement an intelligent virtual assistant, commonly known as an AI chatbot solution, which will be integrated to the national portal of the website of ministries and departments. Another flagship project, together with my very good friend, Honorable Alan Ganu, we are launching very soon a smart parking project. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it will enable drivers to buy their e-parking coupons online and no user use the paper coupons to be able to make more online. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, let me, before I conclude, go very briefly, with your permission, in my constituency. There's so many to say on the ministry, so many to say on the projects, that even 45 minutes will not be enough. Monsieur le Vice-président, à côté de mes deux collègues, l'honorable Soudia Modou, l'honorable Vikash Nakchedi, nous sommes engagés auprès de nos mandants de la circonscription numéro 9, Flac Bon Accueil. Et nous sommes en communication constante avec eux. Nous avons travaillé sans relâche durant l'année écoulée, de concert avec le conseil de district de Flac, entre autres, sur les projets d'infrastructures publiques. Et il y a tellement à dire, Monsieur le Vice-président. Nous sommes fiers, d'ailleurs, que notre circonscription abritera très prochainement le tout premier hôpital qui sera également un hôpital universitaire pour nos jeunes, les aspirants médecins. Nous avons conseil de district flambant neuf, dernier cri moderne. Si on prend que ce soit un nouveau marché à Bon Accueil, des mini-socopiches à la tapis, Cantier, l'Aventure, Health Flac à Kangaro Flac, extension conseil de village de l'Almaty, complexe sportif à Morlachaud, terrain de foot à Commancelin, projet de drain à Débocadère de Poste de Flac, rénovation terrain football à Mont d'Australia. Monsieur le vice-président, la liste est longue. Même les villages qui n'ont jamais connu de développement, comme Nehru-Nagar, ils auront un gym moderne. Comme Shanti-Nagar, ils auront un jardin d'enfants. Il y avait le roi de l'Est. Aujourd'hui, Monsieur le Président, le roi n'a pas de royaume. Jamais ces petits villages ont connu des développements qu'on fait aujourd'hui, Monsieur le Vice-président. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with your permission, I know I've gone beyond my time, but to conclude, this budget set out by my very good friend, Honorable Minister of Finance, delivers a stronger economy and better living conditions for our people. It shows that this government led, and we say it avec fierté, by the Honorable Prime Minister, has always been concerned with the well-being of his countrymen. It was indeed a huge challenge for the Minister of Finance. Within the inevitable post-pandemic limits of any budget, Honorable Padayati has made provisions to give continuous support to the population. Most importantly, we are delivering our promises to our people, even in these unforeseen economic circumstances. And with this budget, this government is looking forward. It set the path for a future that will be full of change, full of new challenges, and above all, full of new opportunities for a stronger Mauritius. This budget has indeed dawned a new era in the lives of our people. I thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.